experience sitting alongside you in these big game situations. What better man to have? But here we go. Both players currently sat at 3-1 after 4 games of the Swiss format. Shellzz versus Agge. I mean, this could be the match for the ages.
It could be, and we hope that it could be as well. Shellzz, who hasn't really had many tournaments this year. We've only seen him at 2 live events, but at those live events he has performed phenomenally. The E-Club World Cup is where he finished top 8, and then the Foot Champions Cup April we saw him finish top 4. If he can find that kind of form, then we're in for something tasty.
Well, here's R9 then, twisting and turning for Shellzz. There was a cricketer, a half drag back, and just maybe trying to test the defensive shape there of his opponent, Agge. Agge holds strong, and one thing that's interesting to me, Dan, is pretty sure that both players will be utilising the 4-4-2, and Sergio Ramos, you had to make that one because the running behind was leaving the striker in acres of space. Van Dijk doesn't get that quite right. However, the assistant referee will help out Agge a little bit there. The flag goes up. Possession from the free kick.
Both players looking for those through balls, those trying to kind of penetrating through balls through the back of defence, and if that ball does get through, it is going to be a clear-cut one-on-one chance. You can understand why they're trying to take these early cut chances, because if they are able to achieve it and you can get that early lead, you can build from that, you can hold possession, and you can play the kind of game that both of these players are more than capable of doing so.
Well, here's Agge's first real chance to maybe approach that 18-yard box, and a lovely little reverse pass there. Has found Hullet, who in turn has found Neymar! Neymar finds the top corner, but it's via a little deflection from Ruud Hullet. But one thing we noticed earlier on about Agge, his timed finishing, there was nothing but green.
I think it was going in anyway, regardless of it had come off the kneecap of Hullet there, but absolutely, we were able to commentate his first Swiss round, which was turned into a video on demand, which of course you will be able to find after today. And he really was on fire. The green finishing is what you need coming into this event. Otherwise, you're really going to struggle.
The green time finishing comes up with the goods. Shellzz now finds himself on the back foot, and it's interesting, you mentioned in what I must say was a wonderful introduction to this game, Dan. The word that has been on the lips of players, and the player that's been on the lips of the players, is Shellzz. And you can kind of see why. 3-1 at the moment, but this is a big game for him, I feel. First real test against a player that he would have had a lot of experience in the past of playing against. And certainly watching a lot of his games and being involved in a lot of tournaments. This is a big test for him to see if he can get through and kind of see that potential that a lot of those players were talking about can kind of come to fruition, to be honest with you.
My only fear for Shellzz is his temperament. I know in practice yesterday, I actually watched him lose a game, and then he went on to kind of walk off and try and calm himself down a little bit, and he just needs to make sure that he can keep a level head, even if he is a goal or 2 down in one of these matchups. You certainly see in Agge's attack, I mean, he's got a little bit of pizzazz, a little bit something about him in that final third. He's often getting into a drag back, putting himself into a position to try and elastico his way towards goal or cricketer his way towards goal. And that's so difficult to defend against when you're going up against a player who knows exactly how to perform those skill moves in quick succession.
Well, here comes Shellzz. Around in the fullback position, maybe just looking for a player in space, but you can see how deep that Agge's playing at the moment. 4-4-2, so good defensively to get bodies behind the ball, and it forces your opponent to look for something a little bit outside of the ordinary. Ronaldo, couple of drag backs, but quite simply just too many bodies there for Shellzz to get through, but Agge doesn't make the most of winning the ball back here. And Shellzz has another chance to build an attack.
You can see how Shellzz is having to constantly go from right to left, from left to right, because he's not finding the space in that final third. Instead, he keeps having to recycle and recycle until maybe a mistake comes out from Agge.
Well, this is beautiful stuff from Shellzz. Da Costa gets a piece of the ball there as Ronaldo used that little advanced fake shot to get around the corner. Ronaldo was in a position to get a piece of that corner. However, the defender put enough pressure on, a little bit of physical contact. This means that the header will kind of harmlessly fall into the hands of Edwin van der Sar.
Agge being very patient as well with the goal kick. We have seen a couple of times this event, a few mistakes throwing it to that striker who is just waiting to pounce on an opportunity. So I do appreciate a little bit of patience when it does come to actually throwing it out or kicking it out to get some sort of precise accuracy to ensure that you're not giving it away.
Well, here comes Shellzz once again now. Hasn't been able to break down this defensive wall that's been set up, the defensive perimeter, but maybe there's a chance here. Ronaldo, he nipped past one, but it was Neymar actually getting back to do some defensive work there. And I just wonder if instructions have been set on one of those strikers from Agge to be that false nine, to drop a little bit deeper and maybe join that midfield when he is trying to defend and win the ball back.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I have seen throughout FIFA 19 as it's developed, a lot of people actually stopping strikers from being set to always stay forward, instead sometimes joining or just being on balance, because they can really help out in those defensive situations. And with the foot items we have nowadays, the fitness that some of these foot items have, you can afford to actually bring them back, drop them back so they can help out, and you don't really lose out on too much stamina. Plus, with the amount of foot items that are available
on the bench,
you have so much super subs. They can just come in and make an impact a little bit later if there is any tiredness.
Well, Shellzz still banging at the door at the moment, and Agge's still not letting him in. Ronaldo now scoops it up. Plan B coming into effect here for Shellzz. Vieira will win that header. Havertz gets a piece of it, turns back, but Vieira comes back in here for Agge to win the ball back. And look at this on the counter-attack. He got a 4v4. Offside trap there played by Shellzz, which is going to leave space in behind for Ronaldo to attack. Just a couple of moments here until half-time. Who now finds Vieira, it's a loose pass. And maybe the last attack of this game will go to Shellzz.
A shame, really, because it was looking like such a promising attack, because Agge looks so good on the ball with the drag backs, with the elasticos combined together. It's making it very difficult for Shellzz to pressure him and get any sort of tackle from behind, because Agge just keeps the ball away from him so successfully.
Well, Neymar now into stoppage time, might be looking for a cross into the box, but Agge deciding to recycle the play. Maybe look for that opportunity himself, but doesn't have the time to do so, and that will be the end of the half. It has been a very, very interesting battle of who can break down whose defence. The 4-4-2 being the main real talking point about this, Dan.
Lyrics there alongside Shellzz. Of course, Lyrics was coaching Night Watch in Hamburg, so he's really been put through his motions to try and ensure and get someone into an E-World Cup spot. But for Agge, I mean, having someone like Boris Legend alongside you is always going to be great. Someone who has also been to the heights, who has been in World Cups. But Agge, a previous FEWC winner.
He knows how to get it done, and in these kind of situations, he's been here before, and he knows the highs, he knows the lows. But to go 4-1 at this stage will be absolutely huge for Agge. Shellzz as well, both players who are certainly dangerous when it comes to potentially winning a tournament. I know the experience they've got, but after that first half of our first leg, it seemed like Shellzz was struggling to come up with a formula to break down the defense of Agge. It was only really that one chance for Agge, we should say, that he did put away. And you just wonder if that chance falls to Shellzz, because you do get the feeling there's always one. Is he going to be as clinical as his opponent was in that situation?
Shellzz is playing the 4-2-3-1, the more traditional style of FIFA 19, and he is set up to defend, dropping back, and unfortunately for him, going a goal down is not going to help when you're trying to play a formation like this.
Elastico from Ronaldo looked for the little roulette as well, but Ruud Gullit, that's a heck of a tackle in that situation.
Going forward, Shellzz has been struggling to find that space, and I wonder whether formational change might happen, especially as we go into that second leg.
Well, maybe this is the chance. You see, Vieira and Gullit were both caught out, just pushing upfield, trying to drive the attack. Now maybe the counter-attack here for Shellzz is what he's looking for. Ronaldo inside the box, lots of tricks and turns, but again, no real penetration coming in from Shellzz.
So good defensively, though, from Agge, stepping up to his man, not lunging in, trying to force Shellzz to do something. And he forced the mistake in the end. The player switching has been phenomenal, though, thus far for Agge as well. Ensuring that he switches to the fullbacks when he needs to, making it difficult for those through balls to be easily penetrating through, as you say. And now it means that Agge can counter-attack each time.
Well, here's Ruud Gullit on the edge of the box. Strike from distance there from Agge. And it certainly tested the goalkeeper. Van der Sar was up to the task. But it was green again from Agge. And now he takes the corner short. Little flick up towards the back post. Van Dijk will send it back across goal. And Shellzz holds on here, and maybe a chance for him to break away.
And he's been needing a counter-attack, I feel, Shellzz. He's been really struggling to actually do anything in that final third because there's been so many bodies. If he can hit Agge on a counter-attack, there's more chance of him getting into that space that we know he can be destructive with. Aside from maybe a couple of early chances, we haven't seen Shellzz hit his full potential in this game yet.
Just past the hour mark then. Still a game of very, very few chances at this point. And you can see the focus, you can see the concentration on both of these players. The ball does go out of play here, a little mistake like that. It can hurt you. And now this is going to be an interesting battle for me, Dan. What are the changes that are going to be coming in? Who are the players who are going to make the changes?
You can automatically see Shellzz has shifted to 4-4-2 as well. He keeps going back and forth between the two.
It's a matchup now.
And he's looking across just to double check to see if Agge is still going to be sticking with the 4-4-2 as well. And I mean, the main differences you can see is pretty much just player differences, and we're going to get some substitutions as well. Eusebio is going to join the field. Now for me, I think Eusebio is a starter. However, Shellzz hasn't really got into the positions to utilize the likes of Eusebio thus far, but maybe now that we get to the latter stages of this game and players get a little bit more tired, Eusebio might be able to burst into those little pockets, those little gaps, and try and get a couple of shots away.
We certainly know that if that chance does fall to Eusebio, your percentages of him putting it away are pretty high. And Vieira now having to deal with the attentions of Neymar. Here comes Agge. And tackle from Shellzz again. He's got to be careful here. Spread the ball out wide to Da Costa, and that's a great ball over the top if Mbappe can just keep that in. The Frenchman does, and here is Eusebio. And again, that little pass, that little moment there for Shellzz, just not working for him. And straight up the other end now, it's Cristiano Ronaldo for Agge. Vieira finds Mbappe, maybe a chance to strike it. Vieira steps in. Great tackle from the Frenchman.
That's better from Shellzz. He's starting to read how Agge is trying to approach the final third now. Knows that the dragbacks are going to be coming. And he's just stepping in the right areas, making sure he positions his body in a way where it's not going to be comfortable for Agge to quickly turn. But one thing Agge has certainly impressed me this event is how well he does keep the ball away from those defenders. It seems like he's really hit the nail on the head throughout this season of how he actually wants to approach it. And I mean, I'm not surprised. It is July. We should expect players to kind of get to that final form by a tournament like this. Whether it's going to be enough, though, to take him through to the E-World Cup, that remains to be seen.
I need to give a huge shout out here to the way that Agge is defending. His player switching has been absolutely superb so far to this point. And I say that because it only takes one mistake for Shellzz to find his way towards goal. Ramos in the right place there. A little misplaced pass might present that opportunity now. Ball falls back to Mbappe! And it was that one tiny mistake, trying to get the ball away there from Agge. Presented the ball back to Shellzz. Yes, there was some fortune involved, but given that chance down, we said, can you be clinical, Shellzz? Well, his answer was yes.
I mean, Shellzz, in some way, put himself in that opportunity to get the rebound by actually taking the shot on with Mbappe in the first place. A lot of players would just passed it out left, as we saw Cristiano Ronaldo was darting down the wing. However, by taking that shot, he gave himself the opportunity of a rebound. I'm sure it's not what he was looking for, but you will take those every day of the week, especially when you're 1-0 down in a game where you've really struggled to create chances. And now, Shellzz can go again.
This is where you've got to switch on. Having worked so hard to get back in the game, you can't just let that effort go without reward. Conceding right now really hurts you mentally. Pull it in towards the box. Van der Sar will claim that one. 6'6", and when those crosses come in, knowing that the Dutchman is there to come out and claim those is absolutely huge. And speaking of opportunities, there was potentially one there for Mbappe, and look at this free kick. What a position this is for Shellzz. Neymar stood over it with Eusebio. Shellzz, go short, Mbappe, oh, and it was a header instead of a volley.
I think he was probably hoping for a volley there. Did opt to go for the dink and try and flick it up so he could get the power behind it for the volley, but I mean, I saw Mbappe in the middle, and I was just hoping he was just going to play it short and play it quick. Maybe he went for something a little bit too fancy. But that is another chance there for Shellzz. And then I think he'll be feeling good about how the second half of this first leg has gone. Been able to get himself back into it now, and only a few minutes left, probably only 1 or 2 attacks, so he might just be going into leg number 2 all square.
It's almost as if you're setting this up for a goal towards the end, Dan, with what you're saying there.
I often try.
Mbappe now has a throw-in on this right-hand side, and Agge will potentially have the last chance here to go forward. Vieira invites Varane to come and join the attack a little bit there. And there you are going to see Agge smartly using the clock to his advantage, making sure that when he goes forward, it's because the time is right. And maybe that time is now for Agge. Varane gets his body in the way. So difficult to defend that cricketer. Because sometimes you can get it wrong, you can give away a penalty, but nothing to split the two players at the end of the first leg.
Solid defensively from both of these players. I mean, it's very difficult to go up against any player of this caliber at this tournament, but particularly I'd say Agge has looked phenomenal going forward, so the fact Shellzz has kept him to 1 goal is very impressive indeed. Yeah,
I would completely agree with you. It wasn't a game of many chances, but here are the highlights from that first leg that we've just seen. And the thing that I was talking about, it kind of came to fruition, to be honest with you, Dan. It was the fact that there wasn't many chances, but both players, when those chances came, they hit that green finish. And they found the back of the net. Yeah,
Agge might feel a little bit hard done by with the goal from Shellzz, but you quite rightly pointed it out. He did give away that opportunity, and that exact pass there, he tried to rush the ball out, which this then allowed Shellzz to actually have the chance to even go for goal. If Agge had held onto the ball, if he'd been a bit more composed in defence, we wouldn't have seen this opportunity whatsoever.
Let's go! Speaking of opportunities, we hear the let's go ringing out from Shellzz. There's always an opportunity for you guys at home, and it's a reminder to you to link your EA and Twitch accounts to be eligible to win some cool stuff like Premium Gold Players Pack that's available, Team of the Seasons cards, and much, much more. And also, as we've been saying all the way through the show so far, anyone who tunes into the FIFA 19 Global Series PS4 playoffs on Twitch will receive a FIFA Global Series FIFA 19 PS4 playoffs home kit.
Yep, some nice rewards.
Lovely stuff.
Essentially available for you guys.
Things up a little bit. We saw that Shellzz maybe had a little bit more success when he changed his formation to the 4-4-2, especially going forward. A little bit more options out wide with those 2 men up top as well, but For Agge, there's so little between the two players. I really do feel like it's very rare that we watch a game after the first leg and we're like, yeah, I don't know who's going to win the second leg. I have absolutely no idea. You kind of get that picture being kind of painted. Yeah, it's not finished yet, so to speak, but there was literally nothing between them. There was, what, one big chance aside, and they both scored. And I just don't know what's got to change for one of these players to really get the advantage over the other.
And it's going to be a situation for both of them where who in the back ball instead of just recycling and waiting, being patient.
Here he goes. Neymar. Cricket his way towards goal, gets a little bit fortunate. Sorry to cut you off there, Dan. It just looked like something was developing in that moment there for Agge.
And that's the scary factor for both these players. It always looks like something's developing.
Vieira combining, commanding that central midfield area. Vieira gets past the attention of Neymar now. Da Costa steps in. You can see, again, both players are having to work so hard to get just half a yard of space to even think about getting a shot away here.
It really has been quite an evenly matched game in both defensive and offensive areas. And really, it's going to be maybe a mistake that's really going to separate these two sooner rather than later, or maybe just a moment of magic. You can see how Shellzz is trying to utilise Havertz on this right-hand side, but it's so difficult when the player switching from Agge is just moving players throughout the pitch and manipulating the pitch in certain ways, which isn't allowing Shellzz to pass it in the areas he'd like to. Both of them seem to have each other's number. I'm sure they've watched each other perform in different iterations of FIFA throughout the years and know their general style of play. It's just about who's going to be able to actually break the mold here.
Well, maybe it will be Shellzz. Da Costa has found Havertz. There's a ball inside to Neymar. Again, the pressure, though, from Agge. Absolutely sublime defensively so far. And going back to your point about player switching, Dan, the amount of mental energy it takes to consistently make those correct decisions. You wonder if the game, the longer it goes on, the more prone one of these players might be to that one mistake. But you just can't see it happening at this point.
It's not just the player switching as well, it's the second man press that's being used at the right times. It's pressuring with that initial man and then switching over to the second man, which has been phenomenal. Both players have done pretty well to beat the first man when they're attacking, but it's the second man who comes in that's been just dangerously close to them. They haven't been able to break away from them, and they haven't been able to get those shots away that we're not so used to normally seeing, excuse me.
Honestly, as someone who's, you know, a fan of top level play, defensively, this has been an absolute masterclass from both of these players. Yes, the game hasn't been full of chances. Yes, maybe there's been a lack of action in front of goal, but there has been so few mistakes as far as player positioning, as you say, player switching, timing of tackles is concerned. You just don't know who's going to get that chance, but maybe it's now. But again, the positioning of Virgil van Dijk, just as we thought we might get a strike on goal. Agge just swallowed up that ground.
And sometimes it is just that quick switch to the player, so then you can hit that tackle button, so you get that extra little bit of a lunge, so the leg does get stuck out by the defender. Shellzz was so close there to breaking this deadlock and gaining the lead for the first time in this tie, and taking one step closer towards those knockout stages. I mean, realistically, we should see both of these players in the knockouts, but when you fall to 3-2, you know it's dangerous.
Oh, chance here. The timing was green again. Cricket and a little fake shot just at least created a little bit of light at the end of the defensive wall to try and break through. But again, just as you saw, the shot being powered up and the opportunity to strike a goal, the space dissipated once more. Ronaldo, though, gets a little bit fortunate to get the ball, falling to CR7, huge chance! However, the linesman's flag went up.
No, we don't even need to talk about it then. It doesn't matter. Offside was Cristiano Ronaldo. But again, Shellzz is starting to get into those dangerous areas and he's won the ball back fantastically.
Maybe that is the mistake here that Shellzz needs to capitalise on. Neymar, 1v1! And Shellzz finds himself into the lead, and it was a mistake from Agge.
And we knew it was going to be possible. As soon as there's any sort of gap, as soon as there's any moment of weakness, both of these players have the capabilities to jump on it and make sure they're punished. And unfortunately for Agge, he was the one who made that mistake, and Shellzz now takes the lead. Shellzz now has the advantage and can play his game at FIFA and try and manage this game and manipulate the game into the way he wants to play.
Can Agge answer back then? Havertz versus Varane. The battle going on here just by the corner flag. And he's looking to answer back straight away from the corner, taken short. R9, space here for Ramos on the edge of the box. CR7. And he was teed up perfectly for the volley, but the timing was off just for once there. He couldn't take advantage of the opportunity.
And Shellzz is looking really fired up now, and there's so much room on both sides, but unfortunately does go the wrong way. Now I would imagine the pace is going to be upped ever so slightly. When both players are drawing, of course, they're going to be more than happy to play the slow, methodical build-up game, but Agge is naturally going to try and inject a little bit of energy now.
And as you say, Shellzz really can play his game now, but Agge wins the ball back. Neymar, beautiful combination of step-overs will release R9. Little three-point turn. Neymar gets past one. There's a cricketer, and Danny Da Costa. That's as valuable as a goal for Shellzz there with that tackle just as the half-time whistle goes. And we were saying how tight this game would be. Would it be decided by a moment of brilliance? Would it be a mistake? Well, as it stands, it's looking like the latter.
And it was a mistake, but it was Shellzz actually capitalising from that mistake, noticing there was a gap in the centre-backs for Agge and playing that through ball to Neymar. And the finish was composed as well. He waited, he watched the goalkeeper movement, didn't go for any timing, instead just smashed it home. And sometimes that can be the best option. However, if he had have missed, I'm sure he would have been thinking, all right, maybe I should have timed that green. But he was confident in Neymar, and I'm sure most people would be with a 98 rated foot item. For Agge, though, coming back into this with 45 minutes left, he is going to have to up the pace ever so slightly. He can't allow Shellzz to just be dominating the possession and passing the ball around. He's going to have to be closing down. He is going to be leaving himself vulnerable, that's for sure. Maybe requires a little bit more width as well, just so then he can get that ball out wide, and then perhaps the likes of R9, Neymar will be able to drop back just at the edge of that D, play it short to them. And then they have so many options. When you get in that position right at the edge of the area, you can either pass one short, you can turn and spin, you can try and dink it up for a volley. All the options are there, but you've got to actually get in that position first.
Or you can just smash it in the back of the net. And at that moment, the decision has to be perfect. Free kick here. The start of this second half, a huge potential second half here for both players. Currently sat at 3-1. Win this game, and we will see you tomorrow. If not, the road continues. And Agge's the man who has to turn things around here. Ronaldo finds Ruud Gullit here. You can see there's runners either side, but unfortunately Neymar just set off on that run. The ball was behind him and allowed Shellzz to win the ball back.
3-2 is one of those tricky situations in Swiss rounds, because you start to get the players that are... You have the opportunity to get those players who are gathering momentum, who were struggling in the early days, but starting to heat up as you get to the latter stages of Swiss. So really, you want to put this to bed ASAP. Otherwise, you could find yourself 3-2, maybe falling to 3-3, and then that's when nerves start to come into play.
Come on, man!
But nerves weren't shown there. He gets that opportunity, finally isolates a man, 1v1 on the edge of the box. And the cricketer into that position, got his body between his man and the ball. And having found the opportunity to strike, Shellzz now has a 2-goal advantage. And you can see why everyone was worried about Shellzz.
I mean, I thought Agge had done enough defensively. That's why I was still jabbering. But unfortunately, he just couldn't get his player goal side. And it meant that the opportunity to time that green and go for the finish was available.
Well, it wins the ball back, though, for Agge. Can he take advantage in situation? He draws the save from Edwin van der Sar. And Agge needs to keep this pressure up now. Needs to make the most of these opportunities. He needs to find a way back into the game. Ramos into Hullet. Maybe a chance here for R9. Gets it on the left. It falls across to Ronaldo. And there's one back.
And that certainly is a free ticket right back into this game. Okay, he put himself in the situation on the left-hand side where he could go for a shot and maybe the keeper would have panned it out, but it was a deflection in the end from one of the defenders. But when you have players on the field like that, like Cristiano Ronaldo, they are poachers. They do put themselves in the area so they can capitalise from any defensive errors. And of course, even though it wasn't an error made by Shellzz, it was still a defensive error. 3-2 and 1 goal in it. And suddenly everything's a little bit more tense yet again.
We'll take ourselves back to London, where Shellzz matched up against Maestro. And he is a little bit susceptible to a comeback, and he's got to be careful here because the wind is in the sails of Agge. He's coming forward, and he's looking to find a way back into this game. Neymar, huge chance. It was such a comfortable save for Van der Sar. Didn't make the most of it.
Realistically, for all the hype we've given Agge and saying how well he's been finishing throughout the day and timing them green when it mattered most, I don't know whether it was a case of not going for the timing or maybe just slightly mistiming it. Either way, he'll be thinking of that chance later if it doesn't.
That is. R9 now, maybe a chance with a volley. Shellzz though, oh, it's beautiful. The ball over the top, the little header into the run of Havertz. And having got himself in the position, Shellzz was not missing that chance.
Heartbreak for Agge. It all comes from that mistimed shot. Well, not timing it green at least, and then right down the other end, and that's what can happen in FIFA 19. It is so punishing. If you miss an opportunity, if you've committed too much forward, then you do leave yourself so vulnerable. And in a game where both players were playing very similar formations, a very similar style, for Agge now, I'm sure he's going to have to think about switching things up. He does look across at the formations, and I think I saw a glimpse of that 4-2-3-1 as a possible for Shellzz again. I mean, 4-2-3-1 is a very good formation to switch to when you do have a lead, because those two central defensive midfielders make work so difficult for your opposition. But Agge still is in his tactics screen. He still is playing around with things, and I'm sure he's got a little bit of a whisper in the ear from Boras legend who sat next to him as well. But I mean, traditionally, when you're in this situation, you are going to set out all of your players to kind of stay forward, those front three or front four, depending on how many you're playing, just to ensure that if you do get a counter-attack, if you do win the ball, you have so many bodies and so many opportunities and different avenues that you can take.
Well, I think one thing that certainly revealed a lot there was the change in emotion of the two players. You can see a little bit of, desperation maybe creeping into the face of Agge, whereas Shellzz just looked so calm now that he has that 2-goal lead. But he needs to concentrate here. We saw how quickly Agge was able to get back into this game after Shellzz had given himself a 2-goal cushion before. So this next 5 or 10 minutes in this game, absolutely crucial to what would be potentially a grandstand finish.
Yeah, if you can win the ball back for the restart here, Shellzz, and start to play the ball around, I think he'll be feeling relatively comfortable. And there we go. There's the interception that he needed. And now he can just dictate the pace of this game. Ooh. Unfortunate there, though. He's going to give away possession. Needs to be a little bit more careful with the power on some of these passes. Otherwise, he will be finding himself giving chances to Agge.
Well, here comes Agge. Neymar now tries to play that ball in. Ramos again. The aggression. A key statistic on that foot item. And it's allowing him to get in behind. And Mbappe now has a chance to finish this for Shellzz. And I think that might be it.
I think there's a little bit of confusion there from Agge as well. I'm fairly certain he thought he was bringing his keeper out all the way, but then the keeper just stopped and backed off. Whether it was a hesitation from Agge, whether he released that triangle button or not, it offered up several different opportunities for Shellzz. He could have gone for a little chip, but instead, just a nice finesse shot around the keeper, and that should be enough. That should be game over, and that should be Shellzz going through to knockouts.
And this is a perfect example of why you cannot take your eyes off of a game of FIFA 19. This game was so tight after the first 45 minutes of the second leg, and now, well, Shellzz is just starting to run away with things.
And unfortunately, Agge, the wound is open and Shellzz is just applying the salt. And it is stinging quite bad as well, because it was such a tight game. There was nothing between these two. But when you have to go for it, and in a format like this, you can go for it. Goal difference isn't going to matter in the Swiss stage. You just have to try and get back into it and try and get the victory. Agge has done just that, and Shellzz has taken full advantage with a couple of over-the-top through balls down each wing.
So for Agge here, it's kind of damage limitation at this point. Maybe just try and score and rebuild your confidence ahead of a huge game ahead of you. But for Shellzz, this is just a victory lap. Eusebio goes for that time finesse! Just wide of the upright.
So for Shellzz, it means that he can toddle on back to the hotel, knowing that he's through to the knockout stages. That first hurdle has been leapt over by quite some distance too.
It's another ball over the top that's just causing all sorts of problems here for Agge. Mbappe now, oh, the fake shot. I think it deserved more, to be honest with you. Eusebio from the corner, and this is just a formality at this point. Eusebio into Hullet. Shellzz just slowly building the play up. And DaCosta will intercept, but I mean, how impressive has this performance been from Shellzz?
I mean, to be honest, the early stages of this game, he didn't look anything special. I think what has impressed me is how he's just pummeled Agge into the ground as soon as he noticed any sort of bit of weakness, as soon as he tasted a little bit of blood. And that's what you need as a FIFA player. You have to be relentless in those situations, so you put yourself out of reach. And I think if Shellzz can do that in the future, he's really going to enjoy himself in this tournament.
I really enjoyed Shellz's reaction to the attempted rainbow flick there from Agge as well. A little smile on his face going, what are you doing? Come on, man. You're 6-2 down.
I think at this point, Agge also knows he's not getting back into it. But it's not over for him. That is the good thing about the Swiss format. Agge will fall to 3-2, so he still has 2 more opportunities to get that 4th win to try and get through to the knockouts. And with the way he has played, I do expect him to get to those stages. It's just whether he can actually keep his nerve and make sure he goes into it with the right mentality and just accept that maybe things didn't go his way. He made that one mistake and then Shellzz was able to build from it.
Well, maybe Agge can find a consolation here, just I say that. Again, Shellzz, it's almost been the perfect game, to be honest with you. He's ground his opponent into the floor. And when those chances have come, when those gaps have opened up, I think you put it perfectly. He's just taken advantage, been ruthless. And there is the final whistle. Shellzz is looking so dangerous in this tournament.